Welcome back to the D1Softball podcast, part of the Learfield Family and Varsity Network. I'm Jenna Becerra with my amazing co-host, Amanda Lorenz. Before we jump in, quick reminder that when you're out of town and want to keep up with live college sports, be sure to download the free Varsity Network app. Available for both Apple and Android. Get your games on the go with the Varsity Network app. And we know, Amanda, that the games right now, it only gets more and more important. It feels like I can't believe we're already in the home stretch of conference play.
We are definitely in the home stretch, and games just keep getting more exciting.
It's crazy. It's all good. It's just crazy.
Yes.
But with that, today's lineup, we're going to touch on the new top 25 rankings. We'll dive into a week 11 recap. And then we have our interview today with Stanford outfielder Emily Jones. And then, of course, our plays of the week and our win and whiff of the week. All right, Amanda, we ready?
Let's go.
Okay. So as usual, there's some movement. I feel like every week this is the same thing, but the movement at the top again. So if we take a look at what this week's top 25 poll looks like, this is the breakdown. So the Texas Longhorns returned to a familiar spot, rising back up to number 1. The Longhorns actually earned a series win over LSU, and they beat the Tigers in game 1 and game 3 of that series. So they are now tied for second in the SEC standings. They're just a half a game out of first place. Texas A&M drops to number 2. They did get the series win over Missouri, but they dropped one game. And then number 3, Tennessee, number 4, Florida State, and number 5, Oklahoma round out the top 5. So Oregon was the week's biggest riser, moving up 7 spots after their series win over UCLA in Eugene. So they're at number 6 this week. That was really a battle at the top of the Big Ten. And then a pair of teams rejoin the rankings following this week. Number 21, Ohio State jumps back in after they swept rival Michigan. And number 25, Florida Atlantic returns after sweeping East Carolina. So the SEC with 11 teams, they lead the way. ACC with 6, Big Ten 4, Big 12 2, and then the WAC and the American each have 1 team in the rankings. Whew. This is a lot to look at, as it is every week. But Amanda, what are your sort of initial thoughts when you see that?
Obviously, seeing Texas move up back to number 1, which I agree with. I think that they are the number 1 team in the country right now, I think. But it's also like so crazy that you feel like anybody can be number 1. I feel like we always have like a clear number 1. And it feels like such a debate this year, which week after week, you don't know who's going to be in the number 1 spot because there's a lot of parity in college softball this year, which is awesome as a fan because you just don't know what's going to happen and who's going to take home the crown, especially with the last 4 years that we've had. It's been pretty apparent that OU was a lot better than everybody else in college softball. So it's fun to watch, but it's also, it's fun to see the rankings each week because you're like, a lot can change and just everybody is beating each other. So I'm glad that I don't have to submit rankings because it looks really hard where I feel like in years past, it's been so clear of where teams stand. And this year, it just doesn't feel like that.
It's so true. Like there have been times when the number 1 team, even this last week, A&M was the number 1 team. And then they did take the series, but then they got run rolled by Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
An unranked team, right? And it's like that just didn't really happen before. It just speaks to the parity that you're talking about, where a number 1 team, gets run rolled at some point.
And this is not the first time that Missouri has taken out the number 1 team, number 1 ranked team. So, and we talked about it, Missouri not ranked. So just talk about like just looking forward. Okay, Missouri probably not going to host a regional or a super regional. Right. So now like one of the top 16 teams is going to get a team like Missouri in their regional, knowing that they have taken down the number 1 ranked team in the country twice, 2 different teams.
Such a good point, because we're going to talk about that more and more, about the number 2 seeds in all of the regions.
Yes.
That's why hosting is so important and all of these games matter, because it is going to be so hard.
Totally.
Harder than it has been, like you said, in a while, probably.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And one thing that I was looking at too, looking at these rankings, so we see that Texas Tech is at number 11 and Arizona is at number 13. That was a big series this weekend, and Texas Tech did take the series. So they are first in the Big 12 standings. So them jumping ahead is something that stood out to me too. And then just want to say with Ohio State sweeping Michigan, that's the first time in program history that they ever did that. So that's pretty exciting. And that pushed them to be number 20 in DSR overall. So those Big Ten schools are spicing things up. I like it.
Yeah. Ohio State, and we've talked about the offense that
Yes.
Ohio State has been producing this year. We've talked about that a lot, but I just think like that there's a lot of crazy rivalries in college sports, right? The hatred between Michigan and Ohio State is different. Like they take it so seriously. It's on another level. So, and obviously Michigan softball has been traditionally just so great. You know, they're one of the best programs and just historically have been amazing. So for Ohio State to sweep Michigan for the first time in program history, huge. Like winning the series period is huge, but just in the way that they did it as well, especially game 3 ending in a run rule, like just insane. You know, the Michigan fans and athletes and coaches are not happy with how this weekend went. That's for sure. So crazy weekend for the Buckeyes.
It's crazy. You're so right. It's like, I think everyone probably was treading lightly around Hutch, for example, this past weekend. She needs a minute to come back.
Sounds scary.
It is. It's scary. Yeah, it's scary how good they did and how they're doing this year. It's fun to watch though.
Totally. I love me some offense.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
You're Miss Offense and I love it. And then even seeing some more golden tickets for AUSL too, with some ranked teams: Arkansas's Brie Ellis, Duke's Anna Gold, and then Florida with Corby Otis, of course, who I know you have loved to watch throughout her career. So cool that you're going to be joined, whether it's on the same team, at least in the same league, by some of these studs.
Yeah, I think the reactions have been my favorite part. Like just to see the dream so alive for these amazing college seniors, like that they want to play professional softball, which I feel like has been, kind of a rocky road, especially the last probably 5-6 years of like what the opportunity looks like professionally in our game. And so for them to be so excited that they get to keep playing softball and play at the professional level, like makes me so excited, because there's been a question mark before, like, are they going to play? Do they want to play? And obviously these athletes really want to play. And that makes me so excited. I can't wait to play with and against them, continue to see them play for as long as possible, because we should not be able to have to stop playing softball after college. Like there should be more, and there is more. So, and the opportunities keep growing, but the reactions have been my favorite part for sure.
I agree. I don't know which reactions are better. Of course, it's the players, but their families too have been like right up there with it. Like Anna Gold from Duke, I remember talking with her mom after she had home run at the World Series last year. And it was like her first, obviously it was Duke's first World Series ever. So they do the tradition, bringing the mom or the parent or whoever's in the stands, the ball and everything. And she was just like so excited and so proud. And then seeing her reaction when this moment happened was just awesome. So cool.
Awesome. Love it all.
So good. Well, there's plenty more that happened in week 11 too. So why don't we just head into the recap? Where to even start? On so many good series that we got to watch week in and week out, and it just continues. And I love the fact that is the case. It's every single week that we have something and multiple things really that we're excited about. But what's one that really stood out to you this past weekend?
Well, gosh, so much, but I would say UCLA Oregon I had my eyes on that series the most, because I think that we've said it before, but the climb that Oregon has had has been pretty steady. They've just continued to get better. They have some really key wins this season, but nothing, other than preseason, nothing super in our face that we've had to talk about. And they really showed up this weekend. Obviously, they win game 1, get their butt kicked in game 2, and then respond in game 3 by kicking UCLA's butt. So a lot of offense and a lot of zeros. So just huge for Oregon to make a statement like that, to beat a hot UCLA team, to win 2 out of 3 against their former Pac-12 foe.
I totally agree. That was definitely circled on my list of games to watch. And it should be no surprise that our D1Softball National Pitcher of the Week is Lindsey Grine from Oregon. Our girl. We had her on the show too, and she's awesome.
Awesome.
And breaking down just her numbers was pretty insane. It's like, we know that she did well just by the eye test. But then when you look at it, it's like, wow, she went 3-0 on the week. 0 ERA, 13 and a third innings of work, 18 strikeouts. Like, she just held batters to under 200, I think, average overall. Just so clutch.
So good.
When it mattered most, and I remember seeing her in person going up against Tennessee when they got the win over them at Mary Nutter too. And so then later in the season to see her still on that trajectory is pretty cool.
So awesome. So fun to watch. So competitive. And it's just, I love good softball.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like it. I think we all agree there, at least.
Yes.
And speaking of our number 1 team that we brought up earlier with LSU and Texas, the walk-offs all over the place. Is it me or have there been more walk-offs this season in general? I don't know what it is, but
that's what it feels like. It feels like that.
Yeah. And not just home runs, of course, but even just walk-off hits or extra innings or walk-off to run rule somebody, just all types of walk-offs this season. But, Reese Atwood, I'm starting to call just Reese Batwood at this point, because I feel like she can swing it. We know that. And then it gets spicy sometimes too, right? Like with some of these matchups, especially with 2 really competitive programs who have had a good season, who are, really wanting to put themselves in a good position for the postseason. Mm-hmm. Everything's on the line, it feels like right now.
Yep. Yeah, definitely can get heated, but it's good, right? You're competitive, you want to win, you work really hard and you care a lot. And when you care a lot, you're going to take it personal. So taking things personal, I don't think is the worst thing. I think when you care a lot, you're going to take it personal. So obviously, huge collision at first base. That was probably a little controversial. Point blank, my opinion, runners running hard. It almost when you put your hands up like this, it's going to look aggressive, but obviously bracing for impact. And then, but on the other side, the first baseman, when you feel hands and you look it back, you're going to feel some sort of way as well. First baseman was standing in the line. She was standing in the way. Obviously, she didn't think that she was going to round the base. She hits this to the outfield. She can round the base. I thought the ruling was a little weird, giving a warning, and I just think it was just a softball play. They both were playing hard. I had seen the first baseman posted something on TikTok as well of her going through the play and saying how in the beginning she overreacted a little bit. Madison McKee tried to apologize, and in the heat of the moment she was whatever, and immediately after she had apologized, they've since talked on through messaging on Instagram or whatever since then, and they're cool. It's fine.
If they're fine, we can be fine.
Yeah. There's no problem. Looking it back, she was obstructing her path, and it's just you're gonna go up a little bit, trying to brace for impact. Unfortunately, she's supposed to just lead with her head and let her head clock the girl in her shoulder. Right. I mean, it is what it is. It was a softball play. They're both playing hard and they're both taking it personal, which is good. You want them to care. You want them to care. You want them to win. So love the response after the fact of it, kind of soaking in, knowing hey, we're just being competitors and we're trying to win, and it is what it is. And, it was just a hard softball play. So I don't think it was as crazy as, the world or social media wanted to make it seem out to be, especially I think it didn't help with them placing a warning on on
Right.
with Ellis, like making it seem like it was absolutely so like
So
like
it's
what's
like it
most
was ruled it wasn't because flagrant contact is what it
yeah,
was
but then
reviewed
giving a
for.
warning says like, oh, but it could have been like,
Right.
okay, well, let's just it is what it is. Like if I'm the runner, I'm probably doing the same exact thing. Like I'm gonna run hard and try to get obstruction. And if they give me second base, perfect. Like that
Well,
I
and that's what the announcers were even talking about is that
yeah.
LSU does that because if you do make contact, sometimes you are awarded second base because if there's interference, etc. So that's not a new thing. It's not like it was
No.
a targeted one-time experience. It
Yeah,
was
no.
just something that they do. And as a former first baseman, you have to get out of the way. I played first base later in my career. I know you started too, Amanda too, and
Yes.
you have to you can't be in the base path. I just think two things can be true at once.
There
If
were
you're
so many
Texas, of
times.
course you're
Yeah,
going to get fired up, but like
totally.
it's
Totally.
part of it.
There
Yeah.
were so many times at first base that I would like just get caught up in looking at the play and realize like I'm standing in the way right now. I'm gonna get trucked. Like
Yeah.
and knowing like, okay, that's my fault. Like I need to just not saying it is what it is. We all do it. It's not like it's how dare she stand there. Like
Right.
it's just playing softball and it is what it is. Like I'm glad that they're both okay. I'm glad that there was no injuries and it was a good
Yes. Number
lesson.
one.
A good lesson for first baseman to immediately get out of the way and then you avoid all of those but again, I've been the first baseman. Luckily I haven't gotten hit that hard, but I've been there when I've been standing in the way. And I know that that was just like she had said on TikTok. She knew she was standing in the way, like she's going to move next time. And then I also could see myself being the runner, like bracing for impact and probably low key. I don't know if she was doing this, but in my head, I would be like hoping for obstruction so that I would get awarded second base to be put in scoring position in a huge game of a huge series.
Right.
That like meant a lot. They were both like really good. So there was a lot on the table. Obviously, they were both very passionate and wanting to win the game, which I love.
Yeah.
It's because you care.
Right. And they both cared. And that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. It should be like that. I see nothing wrong. Both sides, no malicious intent, honest mistakes, and playing softball.
Yeah. And they talked about it afterwards. I like, and this is my age. Back in my day, I don't know if you're talking to your opponent afterwards with something like that. And they did. So that's even like, growth.
Immediately no, but
right.
Eventually, yes. So great. I see nothing wrong with it. And it's a great learning piece for all of us too.
Yeah. True. So shout out to Maddox McKee and Jolie Mitchell for being that learning experience for us.
Yes.
And I feel like I learned a lot this past weekend in a different way, but just being at Big Swing with Cal and Stanford. And it was just so cool. Any rivalry is so cool, right? To witness when it's the arch rival, like your number one rival that you're going up against, historic, all of those things. That's what it was. It's been called in the past, like the Battle of the Bay before for the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, the fact that it was in the football stadium, the football game between Stanford and Cal every year is called Big Game. Pretty straightforward. Big game. Yeah. It's a big game. But like water polo is Big Splash, volleyball is Big Spike, football's Big Game. So this was the Big Swing for softball. Which is really cool. They gave out shirts for the Big Swing. It was really cool to see all the young, like the youth teams all showing up, getting so excited, getting foul balls, all of those things. And then, of course, the NCAA softball attendance record. And if you got to tune in, awesome. Yeah, it was amazing. The overall record, 12,566 at the World Series last year. The regular season record, 9,259. With OU and Oklahoma State for Bedlam. Both of those were in Oklahoma City at Devon Park, where the World Series is every year. So this was at an institution, which was pretty cool. And we're going to talk more about that with our guest today, Emily Jones, because there was some great softball. They were hitting left and right, Amanda. It was made for you. It
made for a football stadium, that amount of offense.
Truly. Home runs back and forth. One would punch, the other would punch back. It was like, it was made for this.
They were putting on a show.
They were. And I know Cal was so excited. It was a moral victory, right? Or like playing for pride at that point because they had already lost the series.
Yep.
But the fact that they finally stole a game in the ACC. It had been a while. They got swept by Clemson. They got swept by Florida State. They needed it. You know, it was one of those like turning points, and they were so fired up. So I think just being able to, you know, when you can kind of see sometimes, okay, this feels like a turning point for teams, that felt like that a little bit for Cal, even though Stanford, of course, did still get the series. And, you know, that's good for them in terms of ACC standings. But it felt like there were positives that both teams could take away.
Well, yeah. And we talked about it before about Ohio State, you know, sweeping Michigan, right? It's a different conversation. Winning the series obviously is the most important thing. You want to win the series, but getting swept by your rival is also like another, it's like an extra, just goes deeper in the chest, right? So huge for them to salvage that game. And obviously it's really hard to beat someone 3 times too. So incredibly hard to do. And so it was great for Cal to be able to salvage that last game a little bit. So your ego isn't hurt too bad, right? You can lose this. You don't want to lose the series to your rival at all. You don't want to lose even one game, but you definitely don't want to get swept. So
yes,
much needed.
And they did last year. Stanford swept them. So this would have been the first back-to-back 3-game series sweep ever for Stanford over Cal. They did sweep back-to-back before, but it was only a 2-game series back in 2001. That's how long it's been. So that's how like back and forth the series usually is. So yeah, it was
wow.
A lot on the line there. That's the best mood I've seen Chelsea Spencer in a while this season after the game.
You needed that.
They did. And you can check out the interview with her as well as with head coach Jessica Allister of Stanford too on our social channels. And then, of course, we're going to talk more with Emily about it. But such a cool atmosphere, history. We're here for it. Everyone watches women's sports.
Period. At least that's what all the cool kids are doing.
Right?
So I don't know about you. Maybe you're not watching. If you're listening there, then you're definitely a cool kid because you care about the women's sports. But yeah, it's just a huge thing right now. They're saying how like in order to be cool, like you have to watch female sports. Like
those are the rules.
I don't make them. Like I'm just sharing.
But you got to watch in person too. Being at OU with camp. How did camp go? How was it to watch in person while you were there?
Camp was awesome. It was so fun to get better with friends. So a good amount of us went to Oklahoma for a USA training camp. And then we got to cap off the weekend by watching OU play Mississippi State at Devon Park. So home of the Women's College World Series. So got to see that big stadium filled with a lot of OU fans. So there was a lot of boomering and soonering going on, that's for sure. But you know, I did my best just to relax, not to relive some old bad memories. Got a hot dog and just enjoyed the good softball. It's always fun to watch softball at Oklahoma City. I was sitting there with Sis Bates and we're looking, and it's crazy how like I could be at like a normal softball stadium, and you know, every hit you could be like, okay, out this. Something about Oklahoma City, like when you're sitting in the stands, everything looks like a home run. Like
it's so true.
I become the most uneducated softball fan of all time. Like the ball goes up and I'm like, woo, bomb! Like, and it's like, it's like not even close. So something about there, I'm just like, it feels like everything is going to be a home run, but had so much fun watching some good softball.
Oh, Glizzy always helps. That's great.
Yeah, always.
That's awesome. And OU being OU, right? Like 4 different players, I think, hit a home run in game 3 alone. And I know that they haven't been number 1 every single week this year like they have been in the past, but they only have 5 losses and they're all in conference. They're tied for second in SEC too with Texas. You know, they're number 3 in DSR. Like they're a very good team still. Yeah. And they know how to rise again, and they did.
Absolutely. I think that, you know, OU has just created this new standard that we just expect absolute perfection out of them, right?
Yeah.
And they have almost an entirely new lineup, new fresh faces, learning everything. They've had just seasoned veterans for so long. So they're just teaching these upcoming kids like how they do things, and they're all learning and getting better and thrown into this big role and thrown into a lot of pressure. Okay. Yeah. And I'm sure they don't talk about it, but I'm sure they feel it. So I feel like, you know, it's now they've created this standard that when OU loses or makes one mistake, the softball world is like, oh my God, like what the heck is going on? And let's just, yeah, like you said, they have 5 losses like on the year. Like they're still an incredibly good team like that with a lot of new faces. So obviously they're doing something right. Okay. They're not going to be what we saw out of them the last 4 years may never happen in our sport again.
Yeah, it's not
That
normal.
is
It didn't happen before, and it
correct.
might not
Like
happen again.
that was unbelievable that what we got to witness. Okay. And so to continue to hold them up to the standard is just a little ridiculous. Okay. They're still
Yeah.
a really good softball team who is learning, and they're going to have to do things differently when you have different types of kids on your team that can do different things. So yeah, like you said, still a really good softball team. They're just not going to be the OU that we saw last year. Nothing's wrong with that. Like every year you're a new team, just like every other team. It's easier for us to swallow, but for some reason, OU, it's like we talked about Jordy and we talked about Nija and how they've just created this new standard that it takes a lot for us to be like, let's talk about it.
Right.
Because we were just used to them doing this thing day in and day out. And so it's similar to OU. We're just, when you're used to it and they do something different, it's like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, because you said it last week or even the week before with Nija and Jordy. That's a great comparison because they're flying under the radar. I mean, in a relative sense,
Totally.
this season because it's like we should not take them for granted though.
No.
You do bring up a good point, including OU. Shouldn't
Yes.
take them for granted either.
Yes.
Oh man, what were some of your other favorites this week? I mean, you were busy too. You were getting better, which I love. But I know you always sneak a peek whenever you can at what's going on. And
I mean, obviously I'm always keeping an eye on the Florida Gators. So obviously Alabama takes a huge series from Oklahoma and then goes down to Gainesville. So I was a little bit nervous just with that momentum, what that would do for Alabama. Alabama did take game 1, and then Florida took game 2 and won in walk-off fashion in game 3 by Corby Otis. So she hits the walk-off and gets the golden ticket in the same day. That was pretty great. So huge for the Gators, because I think the Gators have not been playing awesome. I think they started out the season playing really, really good softball and obviously have been trying to find their identity a little bit as the season has been going. So it's time for them to start climbing that ladder again and continue to play error-free softball. You have to play good defense to consider yourself one of the best teams in the country. So it was good to see them, play better and continue to grind through and have some fight. So as a Gator girl, I loved to watch the Gators win 2 out of 3, but that's obviously a huge rivalry in softball as well. So you could tell both dugouts really wanted the wins, which I love. I love the passion. I love the want to win. So good weekend.
You're right. I think the ability to turn the page, but in this case, like they turned it quickly after game 1. And that's sometimes, I mean, of course, Tim Walton and all the Gators, they're going to want a better game than what they played in game 1. But if that's in the past at this point, all you can ask for is turning the page, and they did do that. So that is a positive moving forward.
Although it was like they ended up losing game 1 7-4, but all of those 7 runs came in the first inning. Yeah. So there actually is a lot to draw out of like that first game. If you're a Gator fan, of the fact that you had Keegan Rothrock start the game, give up 7 runs in the first inning, and then you get some quality innings out of your bullpen to not give up another run. And then you look at that for Alabama and you're like, amazing start to put the pressure down. But I turned off the game because I was like, oh, for sure, mercy. Like, no doubt is Alabama going to mercy the Gators in 5 innings when you put 7 runs up in the first inning. So the fact that they didn't continue to put pressure and figure out a way to score more runs was not awesome for Alabama, because I thought for sure that game was way over. And Florida decided to put some runs on the board and try to create something. Obviously, it wasn't enough, but also a positive, the fact that the first inning was behind them and they continued to compete the rest of the game.
Well, that's why we always say, like, win each inning or compete each inning, right? Because, the Gators lost the first inning, fine. And that did translate. Eventually, they did lose the game. But if you win 6 innings, you're right. It's like, okay, well, we can build on that. And they did.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. One other cool thing on the East Coast that was brought to my attention that I think is pretty awesome. So I'm looking at Army and Boston. So
Mhm.
Boston University, the Terriers, hosted a series with Army West Point, the Black Knights. These are the top two teams in the Patriot League standings, by the way. So BU was in first place, Army was in second going into this. And the Black Knights were 11-30 all time against the Terriers, but they won their first series over them since 2016. And they actually lost game one, and this was going up against actually a D1 Softball All-American from last year, Casey Ricard. But then they beat her in extra innings in game two, and then they ended up taking the series. And now they're tied for first in the league. So Army's making a run for it, and BU has won 6 straight conference titles. So now it feels like it's up for grabs. And I just love to see a team fighting like that. So I had to give them a shout out.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That.
It's like a little bit of that, New York, Boston,
Yeah.
tension that we know we love in our sports across the board.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good week. And there's so much more to come. Like we haven't even mentioned, and I can't not mention the fact that coming up next, OU is hosting Texas and going to Florida. That's how they're ending their SEC late in their first year. So we got lots to look forward to with those guys, as well as other conferences that look similar like that.
Yeah, lots of good softball. I love that like whoever does the scheduling really gives us that treat to like predict what the big series are going to be, and to have them end in this fashion is really cool because we've got some really good softball the next 2 weeks. We are definitely really lucky to have that before conference tournaments.
Oh yeah, because conference tournaments are so fun, but like seeing the end of the regular season and how it translates is always interesting.
Yeah,
For sure.
for sure.
And then for our guest this week, Stanford's going to host Virginia, and we'll talk with her about that and get to hear from her about Big Swing, because I loved the experience being on the call for it, but to hear about it from somebody who is actually on the field competing, doing all of that is obviously super, super cool. So let's head into our interview. We're so excited to have with us Emily Jones, Stanford outfielder, joining us. And I have been really lucky, EJ, to be able to see your entire career really at Stanford so far, at least from a little bit of a distance. But the fact that you all just came straight off of Big Swing, making history, you've been to the World Series before, but how did the Big Swing and breaking that NCAA softball attendance record compare to the rest of your experiences?
Yeah, the Big Swing was so awesome just because, like, we have this football stadium as our field and, like, might as well make the most of it and try and see if we can fit as many people as we can, and, like, 13,200 something, I think, was, like, more than I could ever expect, and so that was really awesome to see, like, all the Bay Area softball fans, like, really come together for that one day.
So cool. I think you hear a lot about, the softball fans in the Southeast and the SEC and how, they're showing up in Texas and everywhere for all these, but California really showed out for this game,
Yeah.
which was so cool to see the amount of softball fans to really show up, because I feel like that's definitely been the narrative, is like there's not as many softball fans in California, and you guys showed out.
No, yeah, that was really awesome to be a part of.
It also makes sense because there was really good softball. So obviously playing against Cal and having a big rivalry weekend too, did it make it just that much more special?
Yeah, it was really nice, and I think it was like a good weekend to do it just because like Cal too, you can get a lot of fans because they're local, and so I think that just contributed to the whole experience, having like Stanford fans, but also a lot of Cal fans to make that like environment even more like competitive.
Did you guys think about it or talk about it that much beforehand, or were you really just focused on like, okay, business as usual, we're going out there to compete?
It was a lot of business as usual, but we also like we're all really excited just because like our team ourselves did a lot of advertising. Like we were just like telling all of our friends from different sports. So we were really excited, and we like heard about a lot of teams that were like planning on coming, and so we were really excited. But we kind of just let that like energy and excitement just like fuel like kind of our competitiveness and like our want to win.
Obviously, being a female athlete is like the cool thing these days. Very, very trendy, and I feel like we're getting a lot of hype, which is amazing. But to talk me through when you heard first that you guys were going to be able to play in your football stadium this year, and just kind of like what that felt like, because it just feels like that means your athletic department like really values your sport and sees you guys to tear up your football field, even though it might be months, but that's when they do a lot of their maintenance and a lot of the things. So I know it's not used, so it really means a lot for them to value you guys that much. So I would love to hear like your initial reaction and just what it feels like to represent an athletic department that really values female sports.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like I always heard about like our stadium being redone, but I didn't like believe it until I saw our like seats being ripped out and everything. And so it was always like in the back of my mind, like, oh, we're playing in the football stadium. But I don't think it like really hit me until like we came back from winter break and there was like a full field. We were just like, oh my God. And then we practiced our whole fall and like part of our winter on the turf. And so to be able to come back like right a few weeks before season and play in our new stadium was so awesome. And I think we were just all really excited to be back on the like a field again.
Yeah.
That's very true. Although it looks like you guys did a really nice job of getting work in on the turf and everything. I was pretty impressed with what you were able to do in the fall.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But that's the other part that everyone's talking about this year. I mean, I don't know if you guys on the team are necessarily surprised at all by this, but just the power numbers and the way you guys have been swinging it. People like you on the team adding a bunch of power this year, like multiple home runs compared to previously in your careers. What do you think has clicked? Everybody has their theories, including Coach Alistair, but what do you think has clicked for the team?
I just think we have a lineup of 9-10 hitters that are just great hitters. And I see like my entire team, like they're like the hardest working people I know. And so just to see everybody as they get older, just like free up and let their hard work kind of like take over and have fun while playing softball, and just kind of like, I could say this for me and probably the rest of my team, but just like feeding off my teammates' energies. Like I feed off a lot of Taryn and River and everyone around me in the lineup, and it just makes like hitting in the game so much fun.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about specifically. It's just your growth throughout your career, and obviously having the best numbers of your career so far. So would love to hear from you what you think really is the reason for that and where you've found the biggest amount of growth in yourself.
Oh, that's a hard question. I would just say like I would just like as you like get older and like go through more years of like college softball, and like how you realize how different it is from travel, and how much more mental side I guess it takes than what I've been used to. So just getting used to playing college softball and just kind of sorry, this is a hard question.
No, it's okay. We can skip it if you want.
No, it's okay. I would just say like just like over the years I just like developed I guess into like a stronger person mentally, and just kind of shifted my focus from like focusing purely on result, from like just focusing in that moment, like being the best like competitor I can be, winning one pitch at a time. And then just being like overall, just like no matter what happens, being super grateful that I'm like able to play. I'm able to be at Stanford with like nice weather and a football stadium, just realizing that like no matter what happens, like I'm extremely like blessed to be here either way.
I can relate to that. I remember my freshman year, you have dreams growing up, right? So you're like, oh, I want to be all conference. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then by the time you're later in your career, it totally shifts to more of being like, well, every day I want to be present, or your goals just definitely adjust. And then not even on purpose, sometimes your results are better. So that's always good.
Or Or just like realizing like it sounds so like cliche, but like as you get older, you only have so many years left playing softball, and you don't want to spend those kind of like so tense and constantly worried about the outcome, or just you just want to be able to enjoy like my last 2 years playing softball before like I can't compete like this in an environment like this ever again.
Yeah. But you also, not everyone realizes that you transitioned defensively. You were an infielder when you came in your initial year as a freshman, and then last year you moved to the outfield, but not just the outfield. You moved to center field after Taylor Gindelsberger had been there for 5 years. And honestly, like, did not skip a beat. You were diving catches, like you just seemed so comfortable there, and you seem even more so this year. But I guess talk to us about how that transition even came up in the first place, how it happened, and then how it actually was to go from the infield to the outfield.
Yeah, I think part of it was like we got some new infielders coming in this year. We got some new freshman infielders. We got Taryn transfer into the infield. And then I think we just like lost some, just like the way like some senior outfielders left. And I think it just um, happened to be that way. I was just told one day to, go in the outfield, and I just ran with it. So,
You're like,
but
I'm a team player. Yeah.
yeah, I really loved my transition to the outfield, just because I think it just freed me up, like in all aspects of my like of softball, just to be able to be like, I have never played this before. I'm learning. It's okay if I make mistakes. Like I might as well just control my effort and see what happens. And so I just had so much fun in my transition, and we were just the outfield drills. It was just balls off the bat, so we were just running as fast as we could in center field, and balls that like were like down the right field line, and it was just so much fun.
It is very freeing. Like they say outfield is the last line of defense, but way less pressure than the infielders. Like
Yeah.
so much better out there. I mean, you could just like free and make it some cool catches. Like, yeah, living the dream. I think I'm an outfielder as well. So I love to hear it. I love to hear the infielder was really giving some respect to the outfielders, but really it's like our job is pretty easy for the most part.
Yeah, it was nice to just be able to, like, it's freeing to play a position you've never played before, because you're just like, well, I'm gonna try my best, and
Totally.
that's all I can do.
And like learning a new position late in your career. Like I had that experience. My senior year, I started playing a little bit of first base as well. And something about being an upperclassman and learning like a new position, or just like later in your softball career, is like so much fun, because it gives you like a new sense of love for the game and learning more.
Yeah.
Just when you think like you kind of know everything and you know your process, it's to learn more. It's like gives you this newfound, like you said, it's super freeing to feel like you're learning, and it's not a bunch of pressure. You're not the one that they look at to do everything perfectly. So it honestly just makes your game excel more. Did you choose number 18? Is that your number, or was that just given to you at Stanford?
I was actually I'm actually number 8, or like I've been 8 my whole life. And on my official, we were like filling out like sizing forms and stuff like that. And my teammate, who was actually number 8, was like right next to me. She's like my roommate too, like one of my best friends. We were both like writing down our number options, and I saw her, like we both were writing like 8 at the first time for the first like choice. And I remember like looking at her, and I'd be like, like I wonder who's gonna get it. And, like it was fine.
Oh, that's so good. Well, 18's my number, so I love to see
Really?
Yeah, 18's my favorite number. So it's a great number, and you're wearing it so well.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, what was the reaction then when Kira Chan got number 8 and you were with number 18?
Well, I never told her that story, so I never told her that like I wanted 8 too. So I was just like, oh, okay.
No big deal.
You're like, cool, I'll just roll with it. Yeah. That's so funny. See, I never knew that, but we did have that on my day too. Like someone came in and their number was taken, so they took a different number, but then someone who came in behind them actually would have wanted that number back to all the way down. And then you just kind of own it after that.
Yeah. It was just like fresh start. Maybe 18's like a new phase of my softball career.
Yeah, there you go.
Super lucky, great number.
You're in your Amanda Lorenz era. and I like it.
No, you're in your Emily Jones era, and you're
There you go. And speaking of eras, too, being in the ACC era now with Stanford, obviously a totally new experience. And now that it's a little bit later in the season, you have some time under your belt where you've been traveling, but then you've been hosting these new schools and stuff. How has the experience been after having played in the Pac the first couple of years of your career?
Yeah, it's definitely different. I just feel like when things like changing conferences come up, you just kind of just go right into it without a second thought and you just play softball. So it's kind of felt like a really long preseason just because we're playing teams we've never played before. But it's honestly so much fun just like because we're a new team dynamic this year and a new conference. And so it just feels like natural to me. Oh, because we're coming into this conference. I'm sure it's weird for like the other teams, but
I've been pretty vocal about just how much I respect, especially you guys in Cal, for the amount that you guys have on your plate with the amount of travel, but also just being at elite like academic institutions of just what's on your plate is a little bit more than the average college student. So I would love for you to tell us how it's been just academically, like having to juggle class times or even exams and all the things while being a Stanford student athlete, having to travel so much across the country.
yeah. Well, our like schedule this year was done like really nicely just to allow us to like travel as little as possible. So like our long travel trips were usually like we're going to Boston for our Boston College series, and then we'll stay there for the ACC tournament. So like that like minimizes travel. We did a lot traveling over spring break. We got some of our away series in, and that really helped with school because we were all done, and that was after between quarters. But our teachers are really accommodating. Our director of ops, Caleb, is really helpful when like proctoring exams and administering those. So like the university's made it like really nice transition to like the ACC, and so they like film a lot of lectures and like allow us to miss class like when we have to without like um any like punishment really.
Yeah.
So it's been really helpful there. But honestly, for me, I don't know if I could say this for the rest of my team, but like the long flights, I just use those as time to like really get ahead on my homework and like watching all my stuff. So I personally don't think it's been too bad.
Love that. Putting the student and student athlete.
Yeah, that's Nerd Nation right there.
Love it.
You're loving it.
Great example.
Yeah, exactly. I would ask you too, obviously I have my own experience, but what is the experience now like when you walk around campus and you see the rest of the Stanford athletic department, and there's 36 varsity sports at Stanford, it's way more than most schools, right? And so there's more athletes in general percentage wise than there would be at other schools too, but just getting to be in that environment as a whole.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of crazy, and I think I take it not like take it for granted, but kind of become used to it. But like we'll just be walking through the dining hall, and they'll just be like, "Oh, one of the male gymnast Olympians just walking by." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then like one of our like I think our swimming program has like so many Olympians, and they'll just walk like in and out of the dining hall, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, but then we're like, "Oh shoot!"
Normal.
Like they're like a gold medalist. What the heck? But it's really amazing because just the support from like all the student athletes and um like the athletes are a very like tight knit community here.
Yeah. I remember in my experience, we were always in awe of the people, trying to cure cancer or inventing things on campus. But then at the same time, if you talk to some of them, they'd be like, "Oh, you're an athlete." And then they would think that was so cool.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, I guess it is pretty cool."
Yeah.
It is very cool. And it's very cool, especially to do it at Stanford. That's another level of like such a flex. Is like we could all of the rest of us athletes, we could say like, "Oh yeah, like we're different," but you guys are much different than even the average athlete. So I have a lot of respect for you guys. But obviously, looking ahead, you guys are hosting Virginia this weekend. As far as ACC standings goes, that's going to be a huge series for you guys and for them. So what do you think are the keys to you guys taking the series this weekend?
I think we need to just continue playing Stanford softball, continue to put constant offensive pressure through 7 innings, and if we do that, I think we'll probably be in a pretty good shape. But I think if we just continue to play the game we've been playing now.
Totally.
Yeah. So you keep it simple. I can tell you've been coached by Jessica Allister because these are like her type of answers.
Her sayings, they've been ingrained, but they're so true.
They are. Wait, share some with us. I
Yeah,
want
I
to know
was
if she
about to
has
say,
some of
what's
the
your
same
favorite?
ones. Yeah.
Consistent offensive pressure is one, but that one's always true. Playing Stanford softball, that's another one. Maybe I just copyrighted her in that whole sentence, but playing Stanford softball, like we always talk about like winning the dog fight or like kind of fight, scratching, clawing, kind of just like there are like sayings just to like bring out like your most competitive self. That's another one. But yeah.
Was it a couple years ago that she would tell you guys, timid sucks? Was that?
Yeah, timid. It was timid sucks. It was something like that. It was timid
I love
sucks. That was a good one too.
Yeah. I remember, so this is embarrassing, but I told my parents that. I was like, oh yeah, this is Coach Al's, one of her new Coach Al-isms these days. My dad made shirts that said timid sucks. I'm way out of college, right?
That is so funny.
But he made them with like a Stanford S on them, and then they wore them to the game. Like they always visit for one weekend, and they wore them to the games.
Yeah.
This is a couple of years, last year or something like that. And I was like, oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Jenna, that's so cool.
Awesome.
That's so cool. That's going to be my new Instagram caption, like next post, like timid sucks.
Timid sucks.
Timid sucks. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, the other thing that I would ask, last one for me, is just what are some of the funniest, I don't know about inside jokes, but who are some of the funniest people on the team? Who do you have the most fun with? You mentioned Kiri Chan earlier.
Yeah, love
who
Kiri
else?
Chan. Cam Carmouche is probably one of the funniest people I've ever met. One of our freshmen, Joey is so funny. And Kylie's like our like senior pitcher, Kylie Chung. She's so funny, very witty, like very quick. Like I think those are some of the funniest people on our team. I think my whole team is so funny and so amazing, and so I just glaze our entire team all the time. But I think they're the best. But everybody, really.
I was just telling Amanda that me, you, and Kylie all went to the same high school before.
Yeah, we did.
And I played against your high school, so
it's true.
It's just crazy. We have a bunch of 805ers on this
I know
podcast today. Okay, who's the funniest coach? You've got some funny coaches too. So who's the funniest coach?
Shoot, I think they're all funny, but I spend the most time with Coach G. She's like our outfield coach, and she cracks me up sometimes.
She's so funny.
You've played with her, Amanda?
I have. Sarah G is pretty hysterical, and Thule is like the weirdest, funniest person I've ever met. So
yeah, Coach Thule is really funny too.
Yeah, I was expecting one of those two, but yeah, they're so funny.
Thule's like funny when she doesn't try to be.
No, I know. That's why I just love it. It's just her. It's the best. You've got some good peeps over there. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know that your schedule is super hectic and crazy, so we're really thankful, especially on a game day. Good luck this weekend, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Just shout out to the 805. That's my first response.
All 805 podcast. We're just out here doing it for our cities.
We put on for our city. It's fine.
Yeah. Go 805. Shout out to all our 805 listeners.
Yes. Special shout out to Rhiannon Potkey on our staff too, because she's also from the 805 and she's one of our awesome writers.
Yes, so, she's the best.
But it was great to hear from Emily. I think we always think of it as a win, basically, honestly, for us to be able to talk with players, coaches, just people who are a part of our game every week. I know we both talk about all the time how it's some of our favorite parts of doing this. So
yes, just fun to like get to know their personality a little bit more, and just other than just their play on the field. A lot of the times it's a lot different. So love getting the chance to to speak with them, and so thankful for them giving us their time because they don't have a lot of it.
Seriously. Anytime I think I'm busy, I'm like, oh yeah, remember when you had to do that back in the day? That was tough.
Crazy.
But we do still love the play on the field too, though, of course. So
Yeah.
we will get into our plays of the week.
We talked about it a little bit throughout this episode, but I love the rivalry, so of course I had to choose this big one. Had a big swing out of the Ohio State Michigan series, another big swing. So this is my play of the week. I'll let this play.
Payoff pitch, Parisian hammers that one, and that one's over the wall. The second grand slam for Ohio State here today. Hadley Parisian, how about that? Bombs.
Hadley Parisian, are you kidding me? With Ohio State's second grand slam of the day, but that was a big one because it was a walk-off in 6 innings to beat your rival, to conclude the sweep at home. Huge for Ohio State. So huge shout out to Hadley Parisian for that huge swing.
It just had everything. Grand slam, walk off, over your rival, at home. Just say no more.
Electric. Absolutely electric. She's a transfer from Miami, so obviously comes over with her head coach. So what a way to be welcomed into the rivalry.
One thing I forgot to mention earlier is now, at least at the time that we're recording this, Ohio State is tied for a single season Big Ten home run record. They have 118. That record was set in 2015 by Michigan. So they have now tied it and could, based on the way that they've been performing this year, probably break it.
Probably. Yeah.
So another thing to add to the list of like, oh, we took that from our rival.
That's crazy.
Crazy. Well, that was a great one. You always choose great ones, though. So no surprise.
Thanks, Jenna.
And then mine, also not a surprise, is on the defensive side. And this was on a little mic'd up Monday. So I will let it play and then we can talk about it.
So far for the Cats, keeping UK in it. Right back to the glove. It knocked it off barehanded. The toss to first is in time. Well, right on cue, Julie Kelly. Well, that had some heat on it.
The first thing I wanted to do was stand up and clap. I mean, that ball was just annihilated straight back at Kelly. But
just respect it. Anytime somebody finishes plays and just like sticks with it in general, like that just aligns with my values.
That was a great choice. And just like that one was also life threatening. Like literally, like Alicia Ocasio on that call said, like she annihilated that ball right at her face and she still immediately had enough feel to like, no glove, don't care. Let me get this ball and throw it as fast as I can over to first. Love.
Totally. Bare hand, and even like throwing without your glove. It sounds kind of silly, but it's like the weight's different. It's not like it doesn't feel the same.
Especially for a pitcher.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. So, and I love that Alicia was on the call because it was like, okay, yeah, you get it. You know exactly what this is like.
Because that's so a play that Lily would make.
Yes, 100%.
Lily can appreciate how hard it is because but honestly, I don't know that she can because she's just a freak of nature. Like she will do things like that. Like a normal pitcher will not do. Like she's just so athletic. But yes, love that she was on the call because that's such a Lily play.
It really is. Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, you would know too.
I've seen her make a lot of even better plays than that. Gosh, so crazy.
I hadn't found my play of the week yet. Like there are plenty of great ones, but I was just like, I haven't found that one that spoke to me. And then I was watching on Mic'd Up Monday and I was like, all right, that's it. Found it.
I love when a play speaks to you.
Right? It just, you have to wait for that feeling.
Totally.
But we had a couple of other things speak to us too that were important that we want to share too for our win and whiff of the week.
We've been talking about it a lot, so it was very obvious what especially but my win of the week. Jenna had a front row seat, but I definitely wanted to talk about it one more time. The big win of the week was obviously the big swing. So, setting the NCAA attendance record for softball, Stanford versus Cal, 13,207 attendees at this game, at this rivalry game. So huge props to the Bay Area and Stanford and Cal softball fans for making it happen. Huge for softball and in California to step up like that. We talk a lot about the South and the way that they show up for softball, but the Bay Area really said, yeah, hold my coffee.
Nice.
Yeah. let's see what we can do. So really impressive and just so cool to be able to do it in the football stadium. Like just so many wins there.
I'm really glad you also gave a shout out to Cal's fans because obviously it was at Stanford, of course, but this was a collective, joint effort. Just like in Oklahoma City, the regular season record before, it was OU and Oklahoma State fans, you know, you all have to show up to make it happen. So I think that was a great point. I remember too, they told us like an inning or two before they announced it at the stadium, like the producers did in our ears. And I was like so excited. And then when they were like, okay, we'll announce it this inning, I was like apparently smiling really big. I didn't even realize. And the producer's like, Jen is excited. She's smiling. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize. I forgot you guys could see me.
The joy was there.
Yeah, but it was so cool. And I feel like it's so cool because like you said, it's like you were right, like you were in Oklahoma at the time and you're like, oh, this is so awesome. It's just such a coast to coast, everyone can relate. Yes. And now it's a new standard that I'm sure others will be able to reach and break too.
Love it.
And before we move on from this win of the week, we want to add a little bit of a bonus. I actually had a chance to catch up with an old friend of mine from college who got to participate in the big swing. So even after everything that was accomplished that day, there's still a little bit more to celebrate. Let's check it out.
Hey everyone, Jenna Becerra here with Stanford football general manager, Hall of Fame quarterback, but also a fellow member of the elite class of 2012, Andrew Luck. Andrew, you threw out the first pitch for a big swing, which was huge. NCAA softball attendance record made. Mm-hmm. How's your arm feeling? Did you have pregame jitters? How do you feel like it went?
Yes, I did have pregame jitters because the first time I threw out a first pitch, all the way back in our graduation year, 2012, shout-outs, freshman dorm mates, boom, awesome. I didn't make the ball to home plate. Yeah, a few feet short. So I was nervous. This was my first softball first pitch. I debated going underhand, but I chickened out. And so I got out there. I was told not to throw it too early, to let myself be introduced. I let that happen. And then I threw it, and I throw baseballs and softballs like a football. So it always sort of tails off at the end and curves in an odd way. But it made it, and it was fun. It was fun. It was actually exhilarating. I hadn't thrown a ball on that field in a long time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I throw footballs like a softball, so if that makes you feel better. It was a strike anyway, so you're good.
You think it was a strike?
I think it was a strike.
Okay.
Yeah, she helped you out. She framed it for you.
Oh, good. She should.
But you did have a lot of amazing moments yourself, of course, in that stadium. But to see it now being utilized for other things for the university, for softball and beyond, how is that from your point of view?
I love it. I love Stanford Stadium. I have nothing but incredible memories there and some heartbreaking losses, actually, honestly. So I love it. But it occupies such a special place in my heart as a physical manifestation of what college, playing football here, coming back here. I'm excited to see it rocking again this year for football. It was great to see the 13,000 plus, all packed into that side of the stadium for softball. So I love that others are getting to use the stadium, enjoy the stadium, and experience the stadium in different ways. We've got concerts coming up this summer, Coldplay, doing a double header, Saturday and Sunday at the end of May, beginning of June, and it's exciting because we got to keep giving our community, our folks, exciting ways to engage with sports here.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, your wife, Nicole, was a gymnast here.
Mm-hmm.
Your sister, Mary Ellen, played volleyball here.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically, to be able to support women's sports, why is that important to you,
Oh,
too?
it's huge. And like I'd argue no place has done more for the advancement of women's sports than Stanford University and this athletic department. And I look around this room right here and I see the photos of luminaries that have advanced the game, that have pushed the game, that have pushed the boundaries. Certainly have daughters as well. And I just I'm thrilled to be associated with a university that does what it does for sports and women, and we got to keep pushing the ball forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we'll repay the favor in the fall come football season for you.
Let's go.
All right. Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks, JB.
Just so cool to see how much support really goes into this. I mean, we had that chat in the Home of Champions at Stanford, which is basically their Hall of Fame. And he's right to look around and see it all. There's a reason why you got to that 13,207. So had to share that bonus on top of the win this week. So good. Great choice. And then for the whiff of the week this week. So this is on a more somber note, but we really wanted to acknowledge part of our softball community that we know and love. And there was a tragedy in the softball community. Umpqua Community College head coach Jamie Strins was driving a bus with 10 members or so of her team aboard. They were traveling home from a game when a pickup truck crashed into them. Coach Strins and one of her players, freshman Kylie Jones, unfortunately passed away while others were injured. It's incredibly sad and just a huge loss for the softball community and for everyone who is close to them. Really, for us and for everyone, this is more than a whiff. It's a tragedy, but we do feel like we're very grateful to have had someone like her as a part of our community.
Yes. So heartbreaking. My thoughts and prayers are obviously with her family and her team. Just such a tragedy. So sad.
Yeah. So only love and light that we're sending their way. And we're hoping that for the rest of the season, we all know that there are bigger things that we play for. We've talked about different types of things, like Coach Alameda with her diagnosis with breast cancer, and there are things that happen in life. So we just all hope that we all remember that, that it's all about something bigger. It's important for all of us, and remembering what matters the most at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know that there's going to be plenty of more softball this season. So we all hope that we're playing and covering and doing everything for the bigger picture to help this game grow. And what's next for the D1 team is that we are going to be all over the place. Again, Eric Lopez is calling the Houston series at UCF. He and another In the Circle podcast presented by 643 coming out, and they'll talk a bit about what the selection process looks like for postseason, because that is coming up soon and we always all have a lot of questions. So I would definitely tune into that to get the info on it. And then I'll be calling the Virginia Stanford series this weekend. And it's Stanford Senior Day, which was pretty crazy to think about. And then on a personal note, I was actually recruited by Virginia as well. And I went on an unofficial visit there back in the day. So it is kind of just cool, like full circle moment from a while back. These two programs, especially Virginia being on the rise like it has been the past couple of years.
For sure.
So that should be super exciting. And then Amanda, I think I could guess a couple things that you're looking forward to watching. And
like always, locked into the TV. So much good softball on this weekend. And I will be on my ESPN app watching all the games.
As everyone should be. There's so much good stuff. Well, if you stuck around this long, as usual, you get a little bit of a treat. So there is the 25% off discount code for all monthly and annual prescriptions. Well, I feel like I have a prescription to D1Softball at this point, to be honest. But for subscriptions,
mental health,
right? It is good for my mental health. For subscriptions, use season 25. That code right there will get you 25% off, whether it's monthly or annual, whatever you're looking for. Season 25 will give it to you.
Perfect.
this season 2025 has been giving us everything, it feels like. So keep us posted on what you guys want to hear more about, and just interact with us, because we love doing this every week and getting to hear from you all as well.
Thanks, guys.